Hey, how we doing, everybody? Zach Klein here on the Inner Circle podcast. This week we catch up with ESPN legend Kirk Herbstreit. He has been with the network for more than 30 years, been to nearly every college town. But what's the one place he hasn't been that he'd like to visit? He would tell you about that, plus his long schedule that starts with a primetime game on Saturday night. Then he's got to get ready for NFL Thursday football with Amazon. Then it's College GameDay on Saturday, and then he's traveling to another ESPN ABC primetime game. We'll go over in detail what that entails. But we begin this week with Herbie talking to Aaron Donald about a Herbie that he handed him over a decade ago.
Just to kick the show off, I think, Kirk, that Aaron wants to formally thank you, and I think he wants to do an acceptance speech. Go ahead, Aaron.
Acceptance. What was that? What category was that? Best player in the country?
Yes. So it was a special year. 2013 was a real good year for me. I accomplished a lot more than I thought. I went out to, it was just going out to be All-American and hard work, right? Accomplished a lot, man, and I got this in the mail. And when I seeing you at College GameDay, I said I still got it with my trophy case. I wanted to prove to you that I still got this. It's a meaningful.
I love
trophy
that,
to me,
man. I love it. You know, when you were at Pitt, and before we knew you to become maybe the greatest player to ever play in the NFL, you were the same guy in college, just absolutely making the most of your opportunities as a young player, kind of coming up, super athletic. And when you guys would play Notre Dame, or whoever you would play, I mean, those were your opportunities to kind of showcase your talents, and that's why you got that trophy right there.
Yes, sir. I appriciate that. I appreciate that.
That's
Kirk,
hilarious. All these years
I need
later.
I need to talk to you about when these Herbies started, because I didn't get one in 07. I was looking around my trophy case. I didn't see one.
I think it started just after you were done.
Okay, just so we're clear about
Hey,
that.
Matt and those guys had a hell of a run. You guys were number 2 in the country most of that year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right. We were there. We were in it for a minute, but it was a different time, and we can get going on that in college football. It was a different time where places like Boston College still had a chance. But
no doubt.
It's
Totally
who knows?
different
Maybe it'll
time.
come back. Bill O'Brien's doing a good job up there, but it was a fun run.
Yeah, amen.
Walk me through a week in the life of Kirk Herbstreit. Start, Kirk, if you can, after the Saturday night game on primetime on ABC, and then until the following Saturday when you're getting ready to broadcast that game, because you don't stop working. It's unbelievable. Walk me through it.
Well, first I'll just say I started doing this in 1996, and I was an okay player, but I wasn't these guys. I got into local radio and didn't do a whole lot. I did maybe a year or two, and then I put an audition tape into ESPN and came in, and they hired me to be a sideline reporter in the 1995 season. And then in 96, I started on Game Day. And so my whole life in this business, I've tried to earn my credibility based on my work and based on my preparation. I've never had, like Desmond Howard won a Heisman. He was an NFL Super Bowl MVP. I never had that. So from day one, I thought to myself, instead of looking at that as an Achilles heel, because I'm on College GameDay, I'm 25 years old. I thought, they might not know who I am, but if I'm super prepared over time, they're going to be like, I don't know who that guy is, but he seems to be informed or seems to be prepared. And that's how I am to this day. Like that's how I built my career. And that's why, I've got the Broncos and the Chiefs right here. I've got the Rose Bowl of Alabama and Indiana over here. And I 4 years ago, I took on a big challenge doing NFL along with Game Day and college football. Didn't know if I could do all three. Most people just do one thing when they're getting ready for a week. But my week is just, the reason I tell you all that is, so when I leave Saturday night, I get back home in Nashville, 2 a.m. Sunday used to be a zombie day. My wife just was like, just let me rest, kind of recover. And now, like last Sunday, I'm watching Chiefs play. I'm watching the Broncos play. I'm already in prep mode on Sunday, getting ready for the next week. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is really majority for my NFL game. It's on Zooms. It's, like we were just talking with Matt, I just got off a call with Andy Reid, the young quarterback that's about to step in for the Chiefs, making his first career start. He stepped in last week against the Titans, but this will be his first career start. Chris Jones was on that, doing the Broncos later today. In the middle of that, I'm getting ready for my college game, dealing with producers, and hey, what tape do you want on the Oregon Texas Tech game? What tape do you want? So it's just literally, if I'm awake, I feel like I have to prepare, because that preparation, man, it gives me like my superpower. And what's crazy, AD, is when you get done with a college game day, you have this much preparation and you use that much. When you do the Thursday night football, you have this much preparation. I use that much. And the Saturday night game that I call, again, that much prep, and I use that. But if I ever just winged it, I probably could get by, but I wouldn't ever feel like this thing can go anywhere and I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's something that feels really good for me when I go on air, whether it's studio or a game, that no matter what happens, I feel like I'm equipped to be able to handle whatever the set of circumstances are. And I think that's a big part of my role and what I do on all three of the shows that I do.
Made this transition from playing, right, and then go immediately into calling games for CBS my first year. And you said it, calling one game that's a lot of work and it's a lot of prep. Not to mention it's an NFL game, which the rosters are a lot smaller than what you're dealing with in college football. But then I went and did studio work the following 2 years after, and they're very different.
Totally different job. Yep.
Completely different jobs. And the prep, even like you're going into a game and calling a game. I viewed that really like I was playing the quarterback position, right? It's an opponent, it's a matchup. What is this defense doing? What is this offense doing? So that part almost was like easy as a former player of diving into the prep. But then you go and you're doing a show like Game Day, or you're doing what we do on the NFL Today, and you're talking about the entire league, and you're talking about storylines, and you're talking about, big picture things. And it's really consuming the sport differently than I did as a player and prepping that way. How do you compartmentalize the two? Because they're wildly different jobs.
They are. And when I talk to younger guys that are just starting to kind of get into the business, I always tell them, you really got to think through, do you want to be a studio analyst or a game analyst? And studio analyst for me on College Game Day. And I know Pat, who we all love, and he's a crazy character and he brings an unpredictability to our show, which is a lot of fun. But Pat's Pat. Pat can be him. I can't be Pat. I can't be Lee Corso. I like to think I've got a personality. I like to think I'm fairly witty. I like to have fun, but man, I'll never do what those guys do. So I have to be, when they hired me in '96, I thought they were hiring me to be a football analyst. So I was, football. And then I learned from Lee Corso, to me, the greatest entertainer in television history. I remember that we were doing a game, Arkansas and playing Michigan. And I went through all this stuff. I was getting ready to break down the game. And I went first, and I gave about a 60-second answer, all XO, and he looked at me like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, Arkansas and Michigan, this is pickup trucks against the Cadillacs. I'm going for the pickup trucks. That was his comment. I was like,
beautiful analysis.
I was like,
That's
it. Right. That was all that's all he did. Here I've done all this stuff. And so over time I learned, wow, we're entertaining. And entertaining people. It's not just hitting them over the head with XO talk. And I thank God I sat next to him to learn not to take myself too serious, not to just beat people over the head with XO, but have fun. Let your personality come out. Like when AD came on Game Day, I bet you if he's jumped on any other show, it's not going to be like what he experienced on Game Day. Yeah. And then I watch some of these shows on various networks, especially the NFL shows, and it drives me crazy where our industry has gone, because I feel like, and politics are obviously this way too, but it's a lot of clickbait. It's a lot of like really loud comments that maybe will go viral. I might not believe in it, but it's going to go viral and people are going to know who I am. Man, I will quit before I ever do that. Like if that's what it takes to make it, I would never do this. Like I rather have some fun, play around, give some people, hey, here's a key, in this Oregon Texas Tech game, here's something to keep an eye on. But I will never undress people. I will never just say crazy, outrageous things. But that's where our industry has gone. And I don't know if you guys have felt that, and maybe in the last eight years. I think it started with Skip Bayless and Stephen A, because they kind of had a thing with them way back at ESPN where they would just kind of, let's argue to argue kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think other show, and it worked for them, but then I think other shows copied it, and it just has become, I have to turn it off because it makes me get really frustrated with as a sports fan and as somebody in the industry. So thank God, and I don't know how you feel, Matt, doing your studio show. On game day, we don't do that. Again, Pat's crazy and fun, but we still we make it about the players, we make it about the coaches, and we make it about the storylines. We really don't make it about us. And thank God. The reason I tell you all that is if it ever changed, I would be so fast gone out of studio television. But I'm lucky I kind of live on an island where we're allowed to still talk ball and still just have fun talking about ball.
Well, you mentioned being so lucky to sit next to Lee Corso. Like, I've been so lucky. Bill Cowher's 2 seats away from me, right? And Bill ain't letting that happen. But we're going to talk football and we're going to have fun for sure. And he's so good at being able to balance the two. But, there's a respect, at least from my perspective, and Zach and Todd and AD and I have talked about this on here of like, there's a way you can be critical without being malicious, right?
Exactly.
And there's a way you can say things without going after people and attacking people. And I have too much respect for the players and the coaches that are doing it and knowing how difficult it is and how hard they work and all of the effort that they put into it to sit there and say just, stuff that really doesn't have any backbone to it. And so, I'd tell all those people who are frustrated watching those type of shows, come watch the NFL Today on CBS. We do it a little differently. We do it the right way, man.
And I think what you just said is really key. You have to be critical, right? For people to respect what you're saying. I've always looked at it like the person that I have to be objective and fair and analytical about. If it's not favorable, if they were sitting on the set with me, they might not agree with me, but they will never feel disrespected. They will never feel like, man, I can't believe you just said that. Like, so I feel like if your tone can stay in that area, then you can be fair and they might agree with you. They might be like, but they're not going to feel disrespected. And I think that's the key thing. And what you guys just said, you guys did it for hours and hours, thousands of hours of preparation. Yeah. I always err on the side when I'm doing a game. Let's say a quarterback. I've done games where quarterback throws 4 or 5 picks. And
those were my games. Those were my games, Kirk.
Right. Rather than focusing on a guy that throws some picks, I'm talking about the defense and how they're disguising coverage. And great job by a guy like Aaron Donald getting pressure to get the ball out a little bit early, created the ball to come out, and safety was able to jump it. There's different ways to say it without just pounding a guy or pounding the offensive coordinator. Like think of the hours that offensive coordinator put in to that game plan. It may not have worked that day, but why be the guy that's just like with a machine gun, just tearing him apart? It's the last thing he needs, at least in my seat. Other people, they're entitled to do whatever they want, but I just don't think that's our role when we're calling games.
I think that's why you didn't get the Herbie, Matt, because you threw too many interceptions.
too many
right.
Want to know about your we're not going viral because I know I'm going to ask you about SEC towns or college football towns in general. And whatever you're going to say, every other fan base is going to say, well, he doesn't like my school, doesn't like my town. Is that the energy, though, that you love? Because after you do an NFL game on Thursday night, it's just not what it's going to be on Saturday. And that's no disrespect to the two teams playing Thursday night, but wherever you and Chris and Holly go on Saturday, it's going to be different. So is that kind of something you need, that energy on the field and during the game to kind of get you through the week?
The thing that gets you through sleeping for 2 hours or 3 hours is adrenaline and passion for it. College football, again, going back, my dad played for a guy named Woody Hayes. He coached with Woody Hayes. He coached with a guy named Bo Schembechler. These are old school guys, but I was raised around my dad. So in Ohio, college football is everything when you're a kid. And so I grew up around that. Always enjoyed the NFL. I mean, I know NFL inside and out as far as just being a fan of the game. But the college game and the energy that comes from student sections and the alumni, it's almost like it's interesting to go to it every week, go to a Thursday night game, NFL game, see the tailgating, see the vibe, see the scene, and then go to game day and see that scene, and then go, a lot of times I fly to another spot to do the Saturday night game. It is so bizarre to see how different the sports are and how different the energy around it. I feel like NFL right now, you get to that week 15, 16, 17, getting into the postseason, you're starting to kind of get revved up. You know, you're starting to kind of feel this, we have to win this game. And I think that is where it goes to a different level when it comes to the energy around these stadiums. But yeah, for the college one, it's like August 30th and you're doing Ohio State, Texas, and Columbus, and it's just off the charts. It's a 10 out of 10. Or you go down to Tuscaloosa or down to Athens or any of those, Baton Rouge. Yeah, I could shoot it into my veins. And yeah, I absolutely love that aspect of my job. And that's why I wanted to try to do it all. I wanted the challenge of doing the NFL. But when Amazon said, are you willing to stop doing ESPN and Game Day and all this other stuff, I said, man, is there any way we could somehow try to marry the two or the three? And that's kind of why I wanted to try to do it all, because of my love for college football. That'll never go away.
Kirk, I have a question for you. In the agent world, you know, everyone's like, oh, the season. So when the off season, that's your off season. I'm like, no, my off season actually doesn't exist on our world, especially in the world of NIL. So like in your world, is there a quote unquote off season? I get the travel might be different and all that, but the preparation and keeping up with everything and is there an off season for you?
Yeah, I have 4 sons. They're all now older. They've all left home, and I make a really good point of treating national championship is, I think, January 19th. I'll call that game that night. I have some responsibilities I'll do through the Super Bowl. And then once I get done with that, I'm pretty good at unplugging. My hobbies kind of keep me still in the mix. But as far as doing what I do from basically August 1 to February 1, from February 2 to July 31, it's like I almost live 2 different lifestyles, you know, and I don't know what, Aaron, when you were training, Matt, when you guys were cranking as players, and I don't know if it was 12 months, and I'm sure the off-season training was very different from what you were doing preparing for games, but I live 2 different lives, and I try the best I can to unplug and go into hibernation for a few months and just kind of get away from the noise and just the kind of the run that I've been on for 5 months.
I'd love to go into hibernation. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's locked in, man. That's being great.
No, not at all.
No,
always locked in.
Thanks, AD.
Kirk, I'm curious. What's that first week look like, right? Because I always feel like it was like that right after the season ended as a player. You have this first week. You've been looking forward to it, right? You need you need like a little break afterwards, and then you get there and it's like, all right, what is Kirk Herbstreit doing when he shuts it down, enters hibernation mode that first week?
Yeah, and you're right. You get to it and you're kind of like, now what?
Yeah.
You know,
it's like,
what's the hobbies?
Okay, you can only yeah. I mean, I like to work out. I love I'm big taking walks in the woods. I mean, that's. I mean, I love, if I were to have that dream house. I got a lake house in South Carolina, but I really want a house either out in Montana or somewhere out, you know, Telluride out in Colorado.
Telluride's amazing.
Yeah. I like to ski, not like crazy ski, but I just like that lifestyle. And I like taking walks with my dogs in the woods. Those are like my 2 things that I like to do. So, but you're right. You get through 2 or 3 weeks of being quote unquote hibernation mode.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay,
yeah,
all right,
it's time to get back moving again.
I always got. I'm curious, AD and Kirk, maybe you feel the same way, but like I always got sick immediately following.
For sure.
Because you would like grind through this whole year and you'd have to be finishing and you don't have an opportunity to take a break. And then inevitably 4 or 5 days after the season, you're like, okay, we're going to go on a vacation. We're going to do something like this. And then I'd be sick as shit.
Dude, that's so crazy.
Yes.
That happened to me last year. I went down to the Albany down in Atlanta, or down in the Bahamas. And I had like 3 of my buddies, their wives, my wife. We all went down. It's like, this is going to be great. 8 days. It was right off the national championship. And maybe I just let my guard down. Maybe that's what you're kind of describing. You let that guard down, that adrenaline rush kind of comes down, and Yeah.
That's how it always worked.
You ever have that, AD? That ever?
Yeah, I did. So
Yeah.
I was a guy that, I trained all year round. I always say that. I'll be a guy like, I'm gonna take this week off, right? And by like the second day, third day, I'm like, all right, let me get back in the weight room at least. But it was all, it's just how I was. So I really never got to enjoy like the time off until I was retired, and then got to really enjoy myself, enjoy the family more, and really like get to let loose. Because I was always felt like I had to be so militant when I did everything, keep myself on the schedule, keep myself in shape all year round, finding ways to watch film, get myself better. So I always said it was a gift and a curse for me, right? Like the had the work ethic I had, but I never really gave myself a break until I got to walk away from the game and be like, all right, now I can sit down and have a glass of wine and not have to worry about, I got to sweat this shit out right now. I just drank you know what I'm saying? So, it felt so good to be done from the game and be able to enjoy myself a lot more, because when I played, it was so hard for me to do that, man. So, long journey, man, but, hard work pays off, and you're a hard-working person. You don't give your time a lot of.
That's what
kept
breaks. Your edge. That's what kept
exactly.
your edge.
Exactly. Because I know you. I seen you. I was at the Pitt game with you. Did College GameDay. Then I turned the TV on. And then you went to Georgia. I'm like, you doing the Georgia game by you game? I'm like, golly, you were just in Pittsburgh. Like, how do that work? You got the jet waiting for you. So as soon as you're done with that, you go straight on the jet and go.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Like, how is that?
That's exactly right. So like out of 15 Saturdays, I probably 8 or 9 of them are probably in a different location. So I do game day. So I do Thursday night, and then I fly to game day, get in, at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then do game day in the morning on Saturday. And then, like you said, we'll just fly to wherever the next game is and show up, go up to the booth, call the game, and fly home.
AD and I, we didn't play at SEC schools. We played at Boston College and Pitt. So what are a couple of the stops you guys have done along the way in a similar vein to BC, to Pitt, that maybe aren't the Georgia, Alabama, SEC stops that you guys have gone to that you've said, man, this is a really cool, maybe not, blue blood, but a really cool place to go do game day, call a game?
Awesome question. That's not your typical, one you would think of. The first time I went to Eugene, Oregon, I'd never been up there. That one really, really stood out, just because I was like, man, we're going way out there. Like, do they even follow football way out there? And then we got there, and we're on the air at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's dark. Mm-hmm. And as far as you could see was just a sea of humanity. And I was just like, that's when I was like, wow, this place is different. And I know SC is a blue blood, but again, I kind of, growing up in the Big Ten, I don't know if I ever really thought of the Pac-10 or Pac-12 as like crazy fans. But when Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart were there, that place was jumping. You'd have Denzel Washington on the field, down on the field. It was just James Conn. It was such a different energy. You guys played at Miami when the old Orange Bowl was there. I miss the old Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
Their new stadiums, whatever. It's kind of a typical stadium to me, an NFL stadium. But the old Orange Bowl had some soul to it. And when Miami and Florida State were playing in there, or in the early days, when both were like top 5, top 10 programs, that one was always special. But sometimes we get off the beaten path and go to like North Dakota State or, to Fargo, North Dakota. I'm thinking, what the heck are we getting into here? Unreal. There's probably 15,000 people in Fargo, North Dakota for a college game day. So it's been fun. That part of our job's been really cool, because you always go to Tuscaloosa, Columbus, Austin, Texas, the normal blue bloods, but we get off the beaten path quite a bit. And Cal Berkeley, probably 20,000 people showed up last year when we went there. So there's some very cool, passionate universities out there that when they get their opportunity to showcase who they are, they take full advantage of it.
I'm very thankful that you and the crew went to Lawrence, Kansas a few years ago to represent the Jayhawks. So thank you for that. But is there one school you haven't been to that you'd like to cross off the bucket list?
Man, in 30 years of doing it, I
seen it all.
I think we've been the Felica used to keep track of that. I think Champaign, Illinois. I don't know if we've ever been there. There's like 3 or 4 that we've not been to as far as the Power 4 conference teams. Just a couple.
All right, we got about 2 minutes left, Kirk. We do appreciate your time. Finish this sentence for me. A great college town needs.
Where'd you come up with that?
Well, he's been everywhere.
Well, it depends if you're a student. If you're a student, or if you're a broadcaster. Broadcaster, I think of Athens, Georgia. Why is that a great town? It's got some great restaurants, a couple great hotels right on campus. You get on some of these college campuses, you're staying out, 20 miles away from the campus. You're close, Zach, to Athens. I mean, to me, Athens and Oxford, Mississippi kind of set the bar as far as college campuses. And I think it's just really, really easy access. It's like you guys, when you go to the Super Bowl as just fans not playing, would you rather go to Glendale or would you rather go to New Orleans? Like Glendale's a beautiful town, but man, you're driving 30 minutes to go over here. This appearance, you got an hour over here. Whereas in New Orleans, everything's just right there. You can park your car and pretty much walk to all your appearances and everything you got going on. That's kind of how Oxford and Athens are. It's just a really good town, and everything's easy to get to. I guess that's why I like those spots.
Kirk, you're a better person than you are a broadcaster. And I just want people out here to know that I'll never forget when my twins were born, you reaching out and getting in touch with me, and how much that meant to me and my wife, man. So appreciate you.
Of course,
you for coming
man.
on with us, man.
How are your boys? How are they doing? How are
They're
they
good.
doing?
They're 7 years old. They're raising hell downstairs as we speak, getting ready for Christmas. So
I love it.
It happens fast, man, but I'll never forget being in the hospital when you sent that text. So I appreciate
you. Got
brother.
It, man. And here's another guy, Kevin Byron. He went through he and his wife went through something similar. If you get a chance, hit him up. I saw him. We had Bears Eagles on Black Friday, and I read about his story. I was able to kind of bump into him. Ironically, my identical twins, who were born 2 pounds each, they were now 25 years old, and they were with me. And I said, Kevin, because I mentioned it to him on a Zoom, and then I saw him in person. I said, Kevin, remember when I talked to you? I said, here are my boys right here. So his baby is just starting out. So I think it just, when people are going through it, to be able to see, wow, they look great. It's like, yeah, man, this is what you got to look forward to. So hang in there. Yeah, whenever I feel that or see that out there, I always try to reach out. I'm glad everything's going great for you, bud. That's great. Good to hear
you're
that.
a good man. You're a good man.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
of
I
course.
appreciate
guys.
it, Kirk.
We appreciate
the time,
you coming
man.
on.
I mean a lot.
Yeah.
Mean a lot.
Yeah.
All right, get back to the prep.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. Get back. Hey, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you guys.
Same to you.
Thanks,
Same
Kirk.
to you.
Yeah, I don't know how Kirk does what he does, because I'm doing weekly prep for the NFL today, and then we've got to slide into a Thursday game, and he's calling a game, he's doing game day, he's got tons of prep that he's doing. But for me, it's you can't get to one thing until you've done the other, and so it's hard to really get in front of prep for a short week for calling a game when the other games haven't played out. So, got back Monday, got to work, started watching a bunch of film on Dallas, a bunch of film on Washington, and then going through, injuries and different guys who are going to be available. You start together to put together the boards and kind of your spotting charts and making your notes. Before I came on for this today, we were Zooming with Washington and talking to Dan Quinn, their head coach, and picking his brain about the season and the upcoming game. And then Terry McLaurin, their wide receiver, Bobby Wagner, linebacker, and it'd be interesting to see who plays at quarterback for Washington as well. They've got Josh Johnson and Jeff Driscoll. They've had some injuries there, so trying to navigate all of this space, getting ready to talk to Dallas after this, and then head to Washington tomorrow, call this game on Thursday, and then try and hustle back home and do Christmas dinner with the kids on Christmas night. So it's awesome. A whirlwind, but it's fun.
That's awesome. Give Dak my love when you talk to him here this afternoon.
I will. Anything I should say to Dak? Anything I should share with him?
Nothing that I would share on this podcast, but no, just connect you and I, and he'll be great.
Hey, to be honest with you, the storyline of that is, coming into this, both teams out of the playoffs, and, obviously disappointing from that end. And the Cowboys have had their issues, and we've been talking about it all year here. But, that opening comment of the beginning of the show is they've got problems, but Dak has not been one. He's had an unbelievable season. And the more I've dove back into it this week and the more I've watched, man, he's played really, really well. So we're going to bring that to light on Christmas Day.
It's awesome. Thank you.
When you're having these meetings with the head coach, do you have a moment, Matt, where like, all right, off the record, background, or do the coaches, players assume that everything you're telling you is on the record? And how do you take the information to build a narrative, a storyline that they maybe want to get across, but they don't want to feel like it's coming from them? You understand what I'm saying?
For sure. I think that's one of the differences between studio work and calling games. I think, when you're doing studio work, I think it's a lot less off the record. If you're having a conversation with somebody, you're saying, hey, we're talking about this during the show. I'd love to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. When you're calling a game, I think there's different things. There's a level of trust that comes up in those production meetings because, they're giving you information to be able to call the game in a way that you need to, whether that be injuries or guys that are going to play. So there's background and off the record conversations that happen in those meetings that it's just different from, when you're interviewing somebody for a pregame show or a postgame show or something like that. So it's a little bit different, but for the most part, you lean on your relationships that you have throughout the league, and you have to build a level, as Zach, a level of trust with these coaches that if you're going to share information, we understand, that's not for air, but it gives you context when you're talking about certain things that are going on.
I know the preparation is different and everything, and you obviously are usually in the studio, but is it fun to kind of switch it up a little bit and get really deep down? Like I think with Kirk, you were talking about how you go in and prepare for this. Like in the booth, you're preparing as if you are the quarterback,
as
opposed to kind of like the global league view when you're preparing for the weekend.
It's you're exercising different muscles, and I think
Ryan will appreciate that.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan Alexander. Flexing the mental muscles. No, but I think you're diving back into it probably a little deeper than we do in the studio because, you've got to have an understanding of what does this team do on third down? What do they do in the red area? What has been the storyline of, their execution in 2-minute drills, both offensively and defensively? And that stuff just doesn't come up as much on the show. Or if you do touch it, you're not touching it maybe as in depth as you do when you're calling a game. So it's a different level of prep, but it is, to your point, it's fun. It's fun to do different stuff. It's fun, like Kirk was even saying, it's fun to be in the stadiums. There's a different level of energy that comes when you're in the stadium and you're live and the game's going on. That part is it's great. But Zach will tell you, I mean, whether it's calling games, whether it's being in the stadium or it's being in the studio, it's who you're doing it with. It's the people, it's your team, right? And that part, that's what makes all of this so much fun.
It's a dance between the play-by-play guy and the color guy and throwing it downstairs, and you don't talk too much. Let it play out in front of you. So there's an art, but it takes time to master that, and you're doing a great job. I remember
it's like being on a podcast, right? I mean, if you're a guest on someone's pod versus the teammates you have here with Aaron and myself and Zach, it's more fun. I get it. Keep going, Zach. Sorry.
I remember doing sidelines, guys, for Fox Sports in the late 90s when it was Oklahoma State and Nebraska. And they hadn't beaten the Huskers in something like 30, 40 years. And then Les Miles was the coach of Oklahoma State. So we go into his office and he's fired up and he's talking shit. And he's like, all right, we're going to kick their ass. And I'm like, they haven't beaten Nebraska in forever. But he was just so confident. So it's myself and the color guy and the play-by-play guy. We're in his office and he's telling, what he's going to do. And he's like, is this off the record? We're like, yeah, we're coach. I got you, man. We're just trying to figure out what's going on. She's like, I don't care who the hell these guys are. Unless we're on our goal line early in the game, we're going to do a big punt. I'm like, all right. So the game happens the next day, and they throw it down to me. And I'm like, hey, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if Les Miles goes for something tricky right here because, he's a riverboat gambler. And next thing you know, he does it, the play, to execute the trick play or the fake punt or whatever it was. And it worked. And the color guys and the play-by-play guys, oh, Zach knew what was going on. Zach knew what was going on. They end up winning. They beat Nebraska. 75,000 fans rush the field in Stillwater. And I'm in charge of finding Les Miles and doing the interview after the game. So I do it. I find with him, we're getting pounded by everybody, and then he leaves. He takes one step and he turns around, he looks me right in the eyes, he's like, how about that fake fucking call? And then he takes off into the
It's so good.
It was so fun.
Good.
So you take that information, you play with it, and it's fun when those guys open up in those meetings.
Yeah, for sure. It's a unique lens into their world, right? Of how they prep and what they do and what their thinking is. And I think there's a great responsibility to have it come across, right? To have it come across in the right way. as to what they're doing.
I mean, I'm just working through the holidays. So much going on still. You got the portal around the corner, trying to renew deals with guys still in the league. Still in college, going back to their own schools. So obviously our existing guys, season ending, dealing with a ton of surgeries and issues with different players that have gotten hurt.
It was a tough week.
This last weekend, I mean, I was on with 4 or 5 different doctors for all Sunday night and Monday, just trying to schedule surgeries. And actually, one surgery we actually had a difficult time, and we actually aren't even doing it. And it's okay medically, but the doctor could not find an anesthesiologist to come in on Christmas to do the surgery. So, and timing matters on some of these things, and sometimes they can push them. An ACL, it's fine, take your time. They want to rebuild the quad, whatever. Others, like, you need to get in there sort of right away. Had another player who's injured, but then fell off his scooter and had to, re-injured it. It's just like all sorts of different things. But things keep me busy for sure, and looking forward to just 2026.
No hibernation for Todd France.
Negative. Not hibernating at all. I'd like to, though.
Right. It sounds, walking in the forest with the dog or a ski place.
Sounds amazing.
Amazing. Matt, happy holidays. Best to you,
Happy
Sarah,
holidays, boys.
Todd, happy holidays. Much love, guys.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us here on the Inner Circle podcast. We appreciate you. Happy holidays to all, and we'll see you next week.